You have PSU banks that is holding the fort pretty okay. But on the whole, what's your take on the banking space?
Well, I think overall it's a neutral thing because on one hand you have the impact of Fed tapering, which is obviously a negative thing for banks because it kind of takes away liquidity. So that is one negative, and also one can expect RBI to at some point follow Fed and start tightening the money supply. So all that is negative for the bank. But what is positive is that we still are an economy which is going to grow at 8% plus. That will be the fastest amongst all the largest economies. So that would be a positive. And also the banks itself have corrected. The market has corrected, and we are also coming out of the very long NPA cycle. My banks' balance sheets have improved. Credit offtake is good. So on the whole, it's neutral. But yes, on dips, one should be buying the well-established private banks like ICICI and the more corporate-facing banks like ICICI Bank and the smaller space, IDFC First, Federal Bank, and also SBI and other large public sector banks.
Okay. Ashish, thanks so much for that view. We've got another question coming in, and just to preempt that, let me also say that we're starting the query segment now. If you are unaware of how this works, essentially you just send us a message on any one of our social media platforms, or in fact on WhatsApp. You can tell us your name, the stock that you'd like to know about, or the sector in fact, and the duration that you'd like to hold this for. If it's less than 1 year, then do specify that. And if it's long term, then specify that as well. The first question is coming in from Prashant, and this one is for you, Ashish. As I mentioned, he has 5% of his portfolio, which he says is in pharma, and he wants to increase this to 10%. Notwithstanding the recent underperformance of the sector, he wants to consolidate his pharma portfolio. He's asking for 5 names that you can suggest from the pharma or healthcare space that he can hold for 2 to 4 years.
Okay, so I think in the pharma, one can certainly look at Divi's laboratory. I think the stock has corrected a bit, but the future outlook remains very positive. So Divi's lab would be one idea. Other than that, the other idea would be Loris Labs. I think the company is in a real growth, high growth trajectory. And I think along with that, he can combine it with something like a PI Industries, which is part chemical, part pharma. But again, on a very strong growth trajectory. So I think these 3 stocks he should look at adding. And a good thing is that all 3 of them have corrected from their peak levels.
All right, this one is for you, Kunal, and good morning to you, Kunal. I missed greeting you this morning. This one is from Mr. K.R. Balan. He wants to buy 300 shares of Shreyas Shipping for the short term, and he's intending to do this by switching out of Thyrocare, which is a laggard in his portfolio. His buy price was around 1,200 rupees per share. So he's asking, should he do that? Should he switch out from Thyrocare and go ahead and buy Shreyas Shipping, or should he just directly go ahead and buy Shreyas Shipping?
So, good morning, Cheryl. I think it's going to be a bit tricky because Thyrocare on one hand is getting into a corrective zone. Shreyas Shipping has also gone into a correction from 440, 420 levels to now 240 levels. So it's corrected more than, I think, 40%, approximately slightly more than that as well from its recent peaks. And typically when a market gets into a zone like where we are in terms of volatility, then we expect these mid-cap names to continue their bout of volatility. So I would suggest that if possible, you can probably wait for some more time, because I would sense that these stocks can get into a corrective phase even further from current levels. But if you're looking to get into stable stocks, then I believe getting into large cap names could probably be a much better prospect and bet at current levels. So maybe something like ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, what we discussed throughout the show, from current levels could be a good bet. Even Reliance Industries, for example, at current levels of 2,350, 380 odd levels, I think could actually be a good bet at current zone. So I would suggest, rather than switching from a mid cap name to another, much volatile mid cap name, it's better to switch to a large cap name from current levels.
Absolutely. Everyone's talking about the possibility of churn, and that is something that we're witnessing in trade today as well. We've got a question on CAMS. Ashish, do you have a coverage? We've got Deepa, who's a senior citizen from Delhi, and she's asking if this is a good company to get into for the long term on the back of the recent correction, because she says that there are people who are saying that it's a great company, and there seems to be strength in the counter. Would you suggest a fresh entry at this point?
Sorry, I didn't get the company. Can you come again with the name of the company?
We're talking about CAMS, which is CAMS, essentially computer age management services.
CAMS is something which I have tracked. It's also in my portfolio. I can disclose, and it's a very good play on the rising equity participation amongst us Indians, and I think it kind of captures the growth in the mutual fund industry and equity both in the whole equity cult which is building up. So I think, and it is the good thing is it's a near monopoly situation. The volumes of this company can only rise as we go further deep and more people start participating in the financial markets. So it's a very clear growth story. And yes, the investor is right that the stock has corrected a fair bit. So it's a very good point to enter CAMS, and I'm pretty bullish on the long-term prospects of this company.
All right. The next query that we have is, excuse me, is coming in from Kati Ravanan. Wants a view on Albert David. He's saying he's holding 100 shares at around 460 rupees per share. He's a long-term investor. Ashish, do you have a view on this particular counter, Albert David? I was just checking on this one, and this one is a pharmaceutical company with a market cap of around 340 crore rupees. So do you track this one?
Yeah, I think it's a very good stock, very less liquidity, not very well tracked. But yes, if the investor is a genuine long-term investor, does not have any time constraint, it's a very good stock to hold on in one's portfolio. Time should not be a constraint because it might take a long time before movement comes here. But otherwise, fundamentally, a very good story and a good stock to have in one's portfolio.
Okay. Kunal, I'm coming to you on this next one. We've got a question coming in from Mukil, and he's asking about Union Bank, which is currently trading at 46.55. He's got Union Bank at an average price of 47.50, and he's looking to hold for 1 month. What advice would you give him?
I think if it's specific towards Union Bank for a very short-term period, then I would suggest keeping a trailing stop loss of 45. I think that's where the confirmation would be that the 50 moving average has broken for Union Bank on the short-term charts, and on the upside, if the stock respects that 45 level, then you can look at 50, 52.5 as a target range for Union Bank. But specifically, as I said earlier, that given the market circumstance and scenario, it's prudent enough to shift from many of these mid-cap names towards large-cap names. So suggesting a swift, from Union Bank towards SBI if your time frame is more than 3 to 6 months.
All right. This one is coming in from Sagar, and he wants a view on EV stocks. I'm coming to you on this one, Ashish. The question he's asking, saying that he already has a different account so that he can basically add some names for in the EV segment. So he wants to know which of the auto companies would be beneficial of the EV theme in near future. EV is taking the entire auto space by storm actually. Right time to invest in auto players which will have exposure to EVs, and which of those you think should one have in the portfolio, Ashish?
Actually, I think EV's theme is a bit overplayed according to me. I mean, I think the volumes will take a long time, and already we have seen movement in the stocks. I mean, I think, of course, it's a very big story ultimately, and I'm not denying that, but whether you look at Tata Motors, which already has gone up a lot, volumes are still, very minuscule, and growth also is not going to come so early. Tata Power, which is into charging stations, already gone up also. So you can buy these stocks otherwise if you know like the overall business, but Per se, EV, I think, at least amongst the larger auto and auto ancillaries, it's kind of overdone in my opinion. And if you're really looking at, you can generally buy Tata Motors, Hero MotoCorp. They have part of their revenues coming from the future EV business. But per se, EV itself, I don't think there is any great scope left in the market. And there's no great player right now who's really benefiting from it or really is getting big traction in volumes from this space.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's still a developing space in the automotive industry. Quite a bit of the two-wheeler space also is assembled. We're going to talk about South Indian Bank, and this one is for you, Kunal. I know this is a counter that has relatively low volumes. It's now trading at 9 rupees per share. We've got a viewer who's got at levels of 13, and he's got 700 shares of South Indian Bank. This is Kitty from Karnataka. His objective is to get out without a loss. Is that the approach that he should take, or should he just book losses and move to something else with the hope of recovering the capital that he's lost?
Absolutely. I think the latter stands true, Alex, because when you're looking at stocks, in investing in stocks, you can't attribute that you want to get out for the stock or a bad stock at your cost price, because the waiting period could be enormous in those senses. The risk attached towards these names also would be relatively high as compared to standing into a quality stock where there is a better chance of recovery and better chance of come back into these names, even when market situations have been very tough. And we've seen that happening just about 18 months, 19 months back, specifically from the pandemic lows, where the large cap stocks and large cap companies, they recovered quite strongly and came out with flying colors, even in a very volatile and a tough environment as such. So I would sense that it's better to try and shift from South Indian Bank and such other small cap and mid cap names towards quality stocks. And I think something like SBI, which has also already gone through a correction, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, I think these stocks are available at good enough price points for themselves. So making a switch and shifting on to large cap names could be a prudent approach.
All right, this one is coming in from Sapna. Sapna wants a view on Vardhman Textiles, Kunal, for the medium term, and she also wants some levels that you could suggest, maybe a buy price, a target, a stop loss that she can keep for Vardhman Textile.
See, the textile stocks in the last 3 or 4 days have been buzzing in with very strong sort of price and volume action. So volumes for Vardhman Textile, for example, has jumped up, I think, 5-fold or 4.5-fold. In the last 3 or 4 trading sessions on an average, which means that there has been fresh buying which has happened to these names. Now, typically when you see such kind of volume spike and prices moving in a very similar kind of a fashion, you typically expect that there is going to be a less amount of correction into these names. So the rally would be sustainable and the corrections or dips would not be very deep enough into these names. So as for example, you can see that today the stock made a high of 23.30, 23.40, and right now it's getting into a shallow correction from the highs, and it's now back towards 22.80 levels. So which means that the correction is very shallow as compared to the overall market. You should try and make use of these intraday dips in stocks like Vardhman Textile as a good enough opportunity to try and chip in because of the volume move. I would expect that the stock would move up higher. 20-80, for example, could be a starting point, and maybe every 30 points to 40 points dip, you can look to average it out further. Targets on the upside, you can keep it at 2400 and 2550 over the very near term.
Just a point here on social media, particularly on YouTube, please don't pay money to have your chat more visible. This is just something that we do to help all of you, and we'll take as many queries as possible. Please don't waste your money. This is a free service that we're providing you with. Having said that, we've got a question coming in from Puneet, and he's looking at RCF and he's looking for short term. This is for you, Kunal. Should he consider buying Rashtra Chemical Fertilizers?
Okay on the charts because the last 3-4 days, RCF has been many fertilizer stocks have managed to spring up into strong price action. For example, Chambal Fertilizers had a good day. GNFC also has been rallying up higher more steadily on the short term charts. The only positive which I can attribute for RCF is that today the stock has broken past about 200 moving average. So let us see how the stock sustains, whether over the next 1 or 2 days, if the stock builds up, the gains from here and holds up to this 200 moving average, then we can expect a bigger revival which can come by for RCF. So as of now, it looks quite okay on the charts, but I think over the next couple of days, if the stock sustains this 200 moving average breakout, then we can take a much more bigger or a positional call into the stock, expecting that the stock would break out on the upside and come back towards its previous major multi-month highs, that's closer to 88.90 levels.
Right, this one is coming from Shailaja, wants to know whether she can buy Varun Beverages and Bajaj Electricals at current market price for the shorter term, but either Varun Beverages or Bajaj Electricals. Kunal, which one would you advise her to buy at current market price for the short term?
It stands to be more stronger and prominent because just as a rationale which I gave for RCF, for example, Bajaj Electricals had given a breakout above its 200 moving average 3 or 4 days back. I think last week on Thursday, if I'm not wrong, was where the stock had given a breakout about 200 DMA, and then for 3 subsequent days the stock just held above its 200 DMA, and then it started to gain up momentum. Volumes also jumped up significantly higher, so that's a signal of momentum coming back into stocks. So I think purely in that sense, I would believe Bajaj Electrical could be a good buy. You can start buying at current levels, and as I said, that wait for dips closer to 200 moving average. That could be a better level for you to keep on averaging out further for the stock.
The query coming in, I beg your pardon, from Srinivasan Iyer. He wants a view on Aditya Sun Life AMC for the next 5 to 7 years. Is a good time to average out, is what he's asking. Ashish, what's your take on Aditya Sun Life? Do you think that it makes sense to average out currently? Srinivasan is a long-term investor also. Ashish, this one is for you on Aditya Sun Life AMC. Oh, I believe that we've actually, I think there's some issue with Ashish's line. Kunal, fairly recently listed counter. I'm unsure if you can give a take on Aditya Sun Life. Can you?
Not really, Cheryl. I'll skip this query.
Problem. With that, let's kick start with the rapid fire then, and let me come to you with this one, Kunal, the first one, and this one is from Chaitanya. He wants a short-term target for Zenzo Technologies. Can he enter currently?
Well, I think yes, many of the IT stocks are looking quite strong. Zenzo has given a breakout yesterday above 50-day moving average. Short-term target you can keep closer to 495, 500 if your time frame is just about a couple of trading sessions.
Kunal, ICIS Securities, if you've got a view, we've got a viewer who's gotten in at levels of 810. He's got a relatively long-term view and he's holding 1,000 shares. Should he hold on?
I'm extremely bullish on ICIS Securities on the long-term chart. So if you get any kind of a correction, a 10% dip from your average price, you should take it as a buying opportunity.
In case if we have Ashish on the line, Weber wants to know Jubilant Pharmova, is it a good stock to be in for the longer term? Alright, I'll take it to you then, Kunal. Jubilant Pharmova, technically, what sort of a stop loss should one have on this particular counter?
See, the stock is going into a drag mode. It's not that the stock has started a big downtrend for itself, but purely in terms of levels of stop losses, I would suggest that keep the major previous swing low, 575. As a stop loss of your holding, if it's a very short to medium term kind of a query.
Um, 7,000 shares of Bandhan Bank. This is Noel Pereira. Kunal, this one's for you. Bought at levels of 380. He's wondering whether to get out of it.
I would suggest to wait and watch maybe some more time. Yes, the banking stocks are getting into a drag. Bandhan Bank has also gone into a corrective phase, but the volatility is very low of the stock as compared to the other banking names. Purely in that sense, I would suggest a wait, because if the banks recover, there could be a chance that Bandhan Bank can recover quite quickly.
Okay, this one is for you only, Kunal. This one is on Rallis India. Shanmuga Sundaram has 150 shares purchased at 300 rupees per share. Can he average now?
Well, yeah, I think closer to 250 could be a better averaging opportunity for Rallis India.
Okay, we've got a question from Prashant from Hyderabad on Adani Power. 300 shares bought at levels of 110. Should he hold or sell at this point, Kunal?
Well, I would suggest a sell or an exit at current levels and shift to Tata Power, or at best you can look at even NTPC at current zone. So both of them will look attractive and much better than Adani Power.
Alright, and Kunal, lastly, Ultramarine pigments. Do you have any view on this particular stock? Soumitra is planning to invest in this one.
We'll suggest to completely avoid this thing. Quite illiquid on the daily chart, so would suggest to avoid.
Okay, Dr. Gopish is reminding me, Kunal, that I was supposed to ask you for the best approach to trading. Maybe we can take that tomorrow. But thank you so much to you as well as to Ashish for joining in and for taking all the queries that you did answer today. We have to slip into a short break right now, but there's more on the other side, so do stay tuned.